Hello, friends. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. It's a beautiful Monday, and hope that wherever you are blessed and well. Certainly, as we look at the events of these last several days, there's a lot of devastation. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of hurt all around us. I live here in North Carolina, on the western side of my state, into the eastern regions of Tennessee and all the different areas around that have been affected by this storm, Florida, Georgia, where have you, upstate South Carolina. It's been devastating without a question. Why do I bring that up in this part of the study? Well, first and foremost, obviously, our prayers are with all of those that are dealing with the loss, the grief, the confusion, all of those things like that. But in the process of that, I want us to also be mindful how this ties to our lesson, is watching our words. Oftentimes in matters of tragedy, people have good intentions, but sometimes what comes out is not well received. And it's not because that person is angry, and it's not because that person is ungrateful that you are expressing a care, but rather what we say and how we say it matters, because I understand how you feel or this. Sometimes those things, while they sound good, once they actually exit the mouth, we realize, that really wasn't the best thing to say. Watching our words. When we look at this lesson as we've been taking out of the book of James, and we see the first few verses in this chapter, we see James talking about the power of the tongue. And he compares this to small parts that move mighty things. All right, we see it in the comparison of a bridle in a horse, this big giant animal that is powerful, but that one small little metal bit turning this way, turning that way, that guides his direction. Okay, James also talks about the rudder on a ship. Now, again, I think I've used this illustration in our last lesson, but you think of a giant cruise ship or one of the big naval, vessels, whatever. That rudder determines where it goes. And so we think about the power of that small little part of this enormous machine, or this enormous animal, if you will. And James says the power of the tongue is equal to that. That's a pause moment. That is one of those things where wow. It really does matter what we say. It really does matter how we say it. You see, friends, words lift up or they tear down. The tongue, it is used to utter words that change our lives forever. Forever. I want you to think about this for a minute. I do at a wedding. That changes your life, for better or worse. Guilty in a courtroom changes your life. I accept you, Jesus. That changes your life for eternity. The power of the tongue, it has changed history through time. Columbus going to the Queen said, I want to go explore and see if there are new worlds out there. That's changing. Patrick Henry famously said, give me liberty or give me death. That's changing. Ronald Reagan tells Gorbachev, tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev. That changed history. Those are events written down in time that historically have been proven to be important or altering things. But nothing, no words ever uttered have ever made a greater change than the 3 words uttered from the cross by Christ himself. It is finished. It is finished. Because with those 3 words, lives were changed and will continue to be changed forever. James writes about the tongue And he says, even with this small member, even with this just minute part of our entire being, that it boasts great things. Now, when we think about boasting, obviously we go to what? Words. Words. We can have boasting in action in an arrogant strut or whatever, but sometimes that's not taken as serious. But words can be said. Words can be important. Words can be inspiring. Words can be destructive. Words can be hateful. Words can have lasting effects. When we lift someone up, when we encourage one another, as we are called to do, when we begin to think about the joy that we can bring through words, then we begin to understand the power of those words. But James talks about the tongue being able to set a fire. And he says that it's on fire from hell. What is that? What is that meaning? What is he trying to get us to understand? The everlasting destructive nature of what we say. I've seen children spoken to in such a demeaning way that it kills their drive for life. You're not any good. You're worthless. I don't want you. Get out. And it could go on and on. We have to understand the nature of what it is that we say, friends. Why does this matter? Why am I taking the time to do this lesson, watching our words? Because what we say, most especially as believers, absolutely matters. When we have platforms like this, these social media outlets and video outlets or whatever, there is a multitude of people doing something very similar to what I'm doing here. So I am absolutely not singular in my efforts. However, what I am finding is an ever-growing trend of the finger pointers and the judgers and all the other stuff and those that are just wrong. And I don't say that to say that I'm completely right, because I have people challenge me all the time. Well, I have one recently just to post a comment on something I put. Well, you're not exactly lining up with the Bible. Well, I don't even know what that means, okay? Because that's an opinion. Everything that I say is an opinion. But what I'm trying to get us to understand through the manner in which I teach is what the Bible says. Look in the mirror and don't forget who you saw. Look at the understandings of what Jesus taught. See, we've got so many different things. We're talking about words. Words add to things to make the story different. Okay? Because if I need the narrative to fit my way, then what do? I change the story. What does that include? Words. Words, again, a police officer for many, many years, words change the story. What happened? It all depends on who you ask. It all depends on what words you were given. James compares the destructive nature of words to that of a fire. Having worked fires over the years, having seen fires over the years, whether in person or whether in news, we know they are destructive. And we know that as long as they're given fuel, oxygen, what do? They continue to burn. And they have no concept and no conscience of what it destroys. That is why the destructive nature of words is comparative to that. We think, well, words, really? James says the untamed tongue is like that of a great forest that a little fire kindles. What is he talking about? Well, think of it this way. You're driving down the road, and I saw someone do this not too long ago. You're driving down the road, and you flick out a cigarette butt. It's not completely extinguished. It catches a little dry grass. That little bit of dry grass all of a sudden bursts into just a little patch of flames. A wind comes by. That comes into a little bit bigger part of the forest. It's a little bit more. Now it has some dry pine straw. And before long, you've got a disaster because neighborhoods are affected, homes are being destroyed, animals are displaced. people are dying. Words can have the same effect because of the continual trend, whether it's here on social media, whether it's in a personal circle, whether it's in a church, whether it's in a community. It doesn't matter. The things that are said matters. Words change everything. We're going to continue to pick back up on this tomorrow, because this is an important lesson, friends. This is not to be redundant. This is not just to keep on and on and on. But we don't stop to think about it, because today we just utter it. It just comes out. We have no filters anymore. And we need to, because we as believers need to remember we represent Christ. And the reflection of what comes out of our mouth absolutely matters. Most certainly for those that are teaching. Not just in the nature of the words that are used, but the truth and the heart behind them. Our greatest example is very, very clear, absolutely spelled out in the Bible. Our greatest example of how to do it is Jesus, and he always will be. We really, really need to study his life more from the human nature and from the deity nature, and understand we've got a whole lot of things wrong. And a lot of it can be corrected through our words. God bless you, friends. Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow for another lesson right here at Making It Simple.